What's up, my friend? I hope you're doing well. And in today's video, I just wanted to touch on a subject that I think a lot of us have experienced in the past, whether that's to a lighter degree or to something a little bit more serious, and that is a lack of motivation and burnout. So again, this is something that I haven't personally touched too much on the channel so far, but I think it's something that we do all come across at some point or another as creative people. I think it's inevitable that at some point you probably hit that creative roadblock where you feel like you can't just produce anymore. It becomes so difficult to continue creating and producing on a day-to-day basis, especially when you have to, because you have to support yourself or a family. It becomes so difficult. So I do want to address this topic, and I want to share with you 3 tips that have personally helped me kind of overcome this feeling of burnout and kind of re-spark that inspiration. And hopefully that kind of gives you some hope and gives you some ideas moving forward if you are feeling bouts of depression or lack of motivation or burnout. Before we really dive into the nitty gritty of it though, I do want to put something in your hands, and I call this the ideal composing workflow. So if you've been writing music or composing for any length of time, I think we know that we all have our specific workflow. We all have a specific process that we like to follow and that we're used to, but there might be a couple things that are actually holding you back from, composing smoothly or enjoying the process even more. And I want to share with you my personal process that has allowed me to write music but enjoy it every step of the way, and how to actually go from start to finish in a very seamless and smooth manner from your initial composition idea to the completed master, if that makes sense. So I want to give that to you absolutely free. If you want to click the first link in the description box, it'll take you there and you can download it as my gift to you for watching this video. So let's kind of dive into the topic of burnout. Right. So how do we actually know if we're feeling burned out? Well, I think there's a couple of key signs. Number one is just that you're feeling depleted, and it almost feels like you don't want to actually do the work. It starts to feel like a chore, right? Something you have to do because, again, it either satisfies a client, you have to work for someone else, or maybe just because you have to put food on the table and that's the only monetary avenue you have of actually earning a living. And that is obviously an understandable feeling, but it's a very sad feeling as well, because as soon as we hit that moment, it starts to feel like questioning everything. We start to question ourselves, like, is this worth it? Why am I even doing this if I'm not enjoying it anymore? And it's actually very scary too, because the last thing we want to feel is that loss of motivation and that loss of love for the art that we got into in the first place, right? So what are a couple of ways to deal with this feeling of burnout? Well, the first one, in my opinion, is to change your environment. So I think there's, studies that have been done that show that after you've been in a certain situation for a long time, in a certain setting, certain environment, your brain starts to work on autopilot. And your body kind of gets adapted to your surroundings, right? So for example, in my home studio, which is where I currently am, I work here every single day. Like, this is my workspace. And every couple of months or so, I start to feel not lazy, maybe like lethargic, or I start to feel a bit unmotivated because it feels like every single day is the same thing and I'm in the same space all the time, the same location, right? So I found that if I bring my computer, bring my keyboard down to another room even in the house, or if I kind of go out and record some voice memos, maybe just taking a walk, this can instantly spark some new inspirations. It just allows the brain to experience something different and makes it more alert in general. And maybe that's all we need. Maybe it's just that subtle change we need to really kickstart our brain back into gear and help us to regain those creative juices. Just that simple change in location, maybe it's even just in the next room, that can certainly help if you're feeling burned out and you kind of feel like, oh, maybe when I go somewhere else, I feel more alert, I feel more alive, right? And that can certainly apply to your music as well. So definitely consider that if you're feeling burned out. Number 2 is to change your actual routine. So whether that's maybe you exercise in the morning, you shower, then you eat breakfast, maybe switch that around. Maybe shower first, then exercise. So then you're kind of waking your body up, and then you eat after that. So even that change of routine kind of forces your brain to think a little bit differently, right? Because again, you're literally switching up what you do on a day-to-day basis. So this is really interesting as well. So you're not changing the actual locations of where you are, but now you're changing the actual actions that you take on a day-to-day basis. And this is kind of another take on the same thing as step number one, but changing up your actual routine can really do wonders, and it has for me as well. I think a really interesting analogy is like if you're driving on the way to work, but then suddenly like one day you take a detour because you see something really interesting and you want to explore that, and then you have to find another path to work, right? Then that forces your brain to be more alert and focus on where the actual road is, right? And where you're actually traveling so you can get to work safely and on time. That's kind of the same thing. So it's like changing up your actual avenues in the brain by changing the actual routines that you take on a day-to-day basis. That can certainly help as well. So that's step number 2, is changing up your actual routine. And the third and final step or tip I can give is just to take a break. Even if it's just a few minutes to maybe a couple of months, because I've done this, it might be worth it to try. Like just do something to get your mind off of music entirely, or whatever your field is. As creative beings, right, we're always trying to create and produce, and we have a specific niche that we have fortes in, right, that we specialize in. But sooner or later, it comes to the point where you just hit that cap and you hit that limit where you feel like you can't produce for any length of time. So sometimes we just need to allow our brain to rest. And I think if you take that time away, maybe if it's just, again, for a half-hour walk, or maybe a couple of months where you relocate to a different area, you change up your setting entirely, you focus on something else, maybe other hobbies, and then come back to music, that can give you some new life and inspiration as well. Of course, there are many other tips we could talk about, but I think generally if you try out these couple, changing your environment, changing your routine, and then just taking a break, those can definitely give you a head start in overcoming those feelings of burnout and kind of restarting your brain in a way that allows it to be more creative and produce on a higher level. So I hope that helps in a way. I don't know if you've experienced burnout before, but if you have, these are just the 3 that have kind of worked for me. There are certainly more that I've tried and that I recommend to students and people, but just to kick things off and just to start, I think maybe try these to see if you can escape the feeling of burnout. Let me know if you have any questions about that. Maybe leave a comment below letting me know if you have felt burnout and what you kind of did to overcome that or experience that in a lighter way maybe, and help yourself get back on your feet when it comes to the creative field. And again, if you want to get started, if you're interested in improving your composing workflow and taking that to the next level and being more confident with your music, then I want to give you my ideal composing workflow guide. It's absolutely free, and again, it walks through how to go from the initial idea all the way to the final product in a very seamless and confident manner. This is the framework I've been following for many years, and I'm convinced that it'll be valuable for you as well. So hopefully you can download that and really enjoy it and just put it into practice, because that's all we really need to do to improve, is to take what we learn and put it into practice. So yeah, you can click it, the first link in the description box below, and you can grab it absolutely free. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I appreciate it. I'll catch you in the next one, and take care. Bye-bye.